Welcome to the Truth and Liberty broadcast. We believe we have a mandate to bring godly change to our nation and the world through the 7 spheres or mountains of influence. To further this cause, we give away a product every week that will empower you to get involved in changing your life and changing our world. You can register for our weekly giveaway by subscribing at truthandliberty.net. You can also subscribe to our newsletter to receive weekly updates on guests, news, and much more. This is an interactive live cast, and we welcome your questions. To ask a question during the live cast, use the comment or chat features. Now get ready to dive into this week's topics with our hosts on location in Colorado, USA.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Truth and Liberty livecast. Happy Memorial Day to everyone, and hope you're enjoying this amazing day when we remember those who paid the ultimate price for our freedom. So I'm Richard Harris, like I said, Executive Director of Truth and Liberty, and we are so excited today to have in studio as our special guest Kristan Hawkins. And Kristen is the head of President. I'm not sure exactly what your title is. You're the big honcho at Students for Life, and we are so honored to have you with us, Kristen. I'm going to give you a proper introduction here in just a second, but before we do that, we're going to hear from Kim Koller. Kim is co-hosting with me today, which is really awesome. Kim is the coordinator of the Practical Government School at Charis Bible College, so an amazing program there. But Kim, you've got some information, important stuff we need to share with our viewers, so I'll just let you take it away.
Yes, thank you, I do. So we want to tell you, for your best viewing experience, to go to the truthandliberty.net live. Go to the website, truthandliberty.net live. You're going to have the best viewing experience. The Truth and Liberty website has many valuable resources, 24-hour feed, and you're just going to be blessed there. All the episodes are archived, and you can go back through and you can binge watch all of Truth and Liberty. Also, when you're on the website, please check out our resources page. Andrew Womack has a new blog that's entitled "The End of Roe May Be in Sight, but There's Work to Be Done." And then Billy Epperhart, he is the CEO of Andrew Womack Ministries, and he has the most pertinent blog there. It's just pertinent for today. It's a question that everyone is asking, and that is, will there be a 2023 recession? 3 determining factors, and how you can prepare for that recession. And we have a lot of upcoming events here at Charis Bible College. The first one, though, is in Fayetteville, Georgia. It is the Awakening Conference 2022. It is June 10th through the 11th. Andrew will be speaking, E.W. Jackson, and Mario Murillo. So you'll want to catch that. And then here at our Charis Bible College campus on Woodland Park is In the God We Trust performance that will be July 3rd through the 4th. It is a patriotic event that you won't want to miss. It'll turn your heart really towards what our country was founded on. The Summer Family Bible Conference, that is held here at Charis Bible College, July 5th through the 8th. You can register at awmi.net/events, and you will hear Andrew speak and many of the teachers that teach at Charis Bible College. And then we have our Healing is Here conference, will be August 9th through the 12th. And my favorite conference of them all is the Truth and Liberty Conference. Richard Harris will be speaking, Andrew Womack, so many people. That is September 8th through the 10th here in Woodland Park. We invite you to subscribe to our newsletter. And the newsletter, we have a weekly drawing that we have, and you can win the Spirit, Soul, and Body that Andrew has. You can be eligible for that, and you will sign up for that at truthandliberty.net/subscribe. And we also invite you to become a member of Truth and Liberty. With Truth and Liberty, everything that we do is sponsored by our donations. So we invite you to sign up for Truth and Liberty to be a donator, and we will give you this Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States of America. And lastly, but very not least, is we invite you to prayer. If you have a prayer need today, we ask you to call our Andrew Womack helpline at 719-635-1111.
Well, thanks, Kim. That was awesome. Well, so it's just like a super honor for me to be able to introduce today our very special guest, Kristan Hawkins. Kristen, literally, she doesn't know this, but she's like a hero in my mind. When I look at her accomplishments, I feel like, I have wasted my life almost. I'm kidding. But Kristen is amazing. She is the president of Students for Life. And she took this organization starting in 2006, right, when you had just a handful of student groups around the country. And now you've got over 1,200 on-campus Student for Life clubs, or whatever you call them, chapters probably is the right word. And you guys are making a huge difference on the abortion issue. Kristen has held positions in I think the George Bush administration, the Republican National Committee, and the work that you've done is just phenomenal, and we're just so honored to have you with us today.
Well, it's great to be back. Anytime I'm in Colorado, I always email Richard and say, hey, do you want to do something? Get you on my podcast, or do something with Truth and Liberty, because we're big fans of Truth and Liberty at Students for Life and all that you are doing. And you would definitely have not wasted your life. Let me just make that very clear.
Just kidding, but it's awesome what you've done, Kristen. I think that Students for Life it looks to me like you guys have made a huge impact. Of course, abortion has been a major issue for Christian conservatives for 60 years. Ever since I've been politically aware, people have been talking about abortion, the need to get Roe versus Wade reversed. And I remember when your organization kind of came on the national scene, and we started seeing your signs. I am a pro-life I am the pro-life generation. And tell us about that kind of development of Students for Life, would you? How has it become such a force?
Well, I think it's a great testament to the power of the Holy Spirit and the power of saying yes to the Lord. Because when we started Students for Life, we had this idea that, if you look back in the history of social movements, you need young people, you need the youth, the energy, you need the optimism of young people to really drive those movements forward. And so that was really one of the main driving ideas behind our launch at Students for Life, that we needed to go on the offensive right where the abortion industry was targeting, high school and college young people, and do what we know works best, peer-to-peer influence and marketing. And not speak to them as their grandmother or their parent even, but as a friend of saying, hey, this is a bad decision for you and definitely for your child, and here is why, and I care about you. And that just speaks differently. We know, like, for example, when we go out from an abortion facility and the students are praying, they tend to have a higher kind of what we call a turnaround rate, where they expect someone who's older to be out there praying or saying, don't have this abortion. But when they see someone their own age who gave up 6 a.m. on Saturday morning to be out, especially here in Colorado, in the snow, to be there to witness to them, that's like, wait a minute, why is somebody my own age caring about me? And it gives them pause for a second. So that's really the launch idea behind Students for Life is to be that young generation. And now it's so exciting because when we launched Students for Life, the idea was to create this post-Roe structure that for so long in the pro-life movement, all of our activities were focused on Washington, D.C. But when you think about what has to happen now as we're staring into a post-Roe era, this is a battle that's going to all 50 states, and you need chapters, you need student leaders, you need people ready and willing to rush to the capitals, like you all have done here at Truth and Liberty a lot in Denver, to stand up for life and to demand that the legislators protect life, protect women, work in the communities to make the pregnancy center resources known, which actually we have come to find is one of our largest problems in the pro-life movement, is that 73% of the people we talk to in our communities don't know pregnancy resource centers and maternity homes exist, all that we do in the pro-life movement have been doing. So it's been a very exciting time for us in the pro-life movement, especially at Students for Life. It's also a very, I'd say I'm taking this responsibility really on my shoulders of, okay, now everything we've been building, everything that we've been working towards, all of these leaders we've been equipping and mentoring throughout the years, now it's really going to come down. They're all going to be responsible for being leaders in their state. It's not going to be Kristen Hawkins and our team. It's going to be them.
Right. Yeah, because what you're alluding to is that Roe is hopefully about to be reversed, right?
Yes.
So
that's what I'm not saying, but I really want to say.
Well,
Let's just say it.
Let's just say it. We hope that it is. We
Yes.
believe that it is.
Yes.
One of the things that strikes me about Students for Life and the way you guys have gone about it is just the way I see it is you guys have been bold in your faith, like believing that you're going to be victorious in this battle, that Roe is going to be reversed, and your people are out there. I am the pro-life generation.
David didn't go into battle thinking he was going to lose.
Well, there you go, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to cut your head off and feed you to the whatever, right? I mean, you guys, you're bold in your declaration that your goal is to abolish abortion. That's awesome. I don't hear that a lot of places, and we see so much kind of compromise out there on this issue. Well, we can't get it abolished, we can only do this, but that's not how you guys have approached the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely want to be pragmatic. We don't want to prescribe policy solutions that we know have no chance of passing or going into effect that hurt our movement. But I think there's something about that mentality, right?
Yeah.
Of having a winner's mentality, of saying, we can do this, we can be victorious. Because if you don't, it's sport. I always talk about it as sports psychology. Like, if you go onto the field and you think you're going to lose, your team's probably going to lose.
That's
You have to go onto the field knowing truth is on our side. Our creator of the universe is on our side here. That's a pretty big person to have in your pocket. We can actually get this done, and let's not deceive ourselves into thinking it's impossible, because once we start thinking, oh, we'll never completely abolish abortion, we'll never get rid of abortion, we don't act. We don't act with the vigor, with the intensity that we should, because we've already told ourselves it's not possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. So there's been so much progress on abortion over just the last 10 years. And even the last 5 years, it seems like the pace has accelerated at the state level. What do you attribute that to? Why are we making headway on this issue?
Well, I mean, the state level progress we've seen in the past 10 to 12 years, just really this huge influx of legislation being introduced, proposed, passed. And that was really a realization of a lot of legislators that Washington, D.C. isn't going to do it. It really started with the election of Barack Obama. When President Obama was elected, folks were like, wait a minute, like, we cannot rely on Washington, D.C. to do anything to protect women and children from the predatory abortion industry. Like, if I care about this issue, if I'm really pro-life and I'm going to hold my pledge to my constituents, I'm going to have to do something. And so we started to see this tidal wave, and then folks started to realize, wait a minute, there's actually more that I can do. And I think that's very important within the states, is to empower our legislators and to say you don't have to wait at the doors of the Supreme Court based on the decision that 7 men in 1973 made to do anything. Like, you can actually make an impact. I mean, that's what we saw this year, for example, in Texas, when the heartbeat law was signed into law September 1st, where 60-some% of now abortions in Texas have ceased because of this law. And what they did in Texas was they even, I mean, it was a pretty big discussion point. Like, would it hold? Would the Supreme Court allow this? Right. Because it doesn't have criminal penalties, it has civil penalties. Yeah. And they got around the fact that the district attorney said, we're not going to enforce any laws that the state passes. Even though they're sworn to uphold those laws, they said that they would not do their job. So the state came back and said, fine, we'll do civil penalties. And it's been this novel approach that's now saved thousands, tens of thousands of lives in the state of Texas. And Texans were like, yes, we can make an impact here.
Now, that Texas heartbeat bill, the thing about it that's great is that it's going after the pocketbook, right?
That's right.
It's going after the money, which is the root of the abortion. You called it a predatory abortion industry, I think were your words. Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean? That's a pretty big statement, actually.
Planned Parenthood.
Because they market themselves as saving women, right?
They are predators. They are predators. Because if you look at their business cycle, it's, they are very intentional about going in, building relationship with our young people, as early as elementary school in California, but building a relationship, getting their name to them, having them, you can come to us, you can trust us. If you have questions about sexual health, or if you want to start having an intimate relationship with your partner, come to us if you don't want to go to your parents. Because they realize the sooner they can get her or him into the door, the more money they make, because they'll prescribe birth control, which will have a lot of health effects for her. We know isn't always very effective. Once she's on birth control, even if she's not having sex, she's more likely to then engage in sex. So then she's going to come back for STD testing, which, by the way, and then if she has an STD, she'll go for treatment, but they only treat 18% of STDs they diagnose. So that's a big misnomer. A lot of people think Planned Parenthood is always treating STDs. They're not. And so it's just a cycle. And so when she gets pregnant, who is she going to go to? Well, she's going to go to her friends at Planned Parenthood, who she's been going to for 5 years to get her birth control, to get her STD test. And so they just develop this relationship. That's why we always talk with pregnancy centers and the importance of pregnancy centers in the community, as you know, Kim, getting out into the young people and getting your name known and building that relationship and building up that trust with them before Planned Parenthood does.
Wow. There seems to be a mindset on the left with Planned Parenthood and progressives that view pregnancy as some kind of an evil thing, right?
Yeah.
Like
Obamacare labeled it a preventable disease. Wow. Pregnancy is officially labeled by the U.S. government as a preventable disease. That is how, so in Obamacare, during the Affordable Care Act debate, the Democrats in Congress wanted to force every state, every state or national insurance plan to cover contraceptives. Now, contraceptives are there's a con in contraceptives, because some contraceptives actually prevent conception. Other contraceptives can prevent conception, but they also can prevent the new human being from attaching into the uterine wall and are causing early abortion. Some contraceptives, chemical contraceptives, can act as early abortifacients. But they wanted to get all those funded, free of charge for women, right? Remember the women's rights people said it was unfair that they had to pay $9 a month for birth control pills. So the government labeled HHS, my former employer, Department of Health and Human Services, labeled pregnancy a preventable disease, and then said because it's a preventable disease, it has to be covered by insurances at 100%.
Wow. And that's still the law today?
Yep, it's still the law today.
That's incredible to me. You know, it kind of goes to a fundamental worldview issue here, doesn't it? And what you think about how human beings are made, whether we're made at all or whether we're just an accident, and all of those kinds of issues. And it's interesting, isn't it, how the those who reject the Christian worldview are sort of on one side, and those who embrace it are on the other. It really is about what do we think about life and why it's important and that kind of thing.
It's a fundamental issue. I mean, you think about in the next few weeks, actually, in Capitol Hill, there's going to be a vote taken for the Veterans Health Administration to force all taxpayers to fund abortion counseling and IVF for veterans. And there's a big question about that. And it's a worldview thing.
Tell our folks what IVF is.
So in vitro fertilization. Okay. So that there's so many couples across America who are experiencing infertility and desperate for having to have children. And a lot of folks say, well, just do IVF. We don't talk about what happens in IVF. That in IVF, because it's not very successful, has less than a 30% success rate, you have to extract eggs, you extract sperm, you create multiple humans in the lab. You test those human beings and determine which ones have diseases like my children, cystic fibrosis. Those embryos either get thrown away or they get donated to research. They create multiple humans, so they test which embryos are the best ones. Some of them might get frozen for later use, and then they'll only implant certain embryos into a mother.
Wow.
That's what happens with IVF.
Talk about playing God.
Wow. But this is what goes back to your worldview question. Yeah. Because if you've lost sight, and many Christians don't know this, and I'm not passing judgment if you've used IVF or you've been conceived in IVF, you are an equally valuable member of our human species, and you are created in the image of God. But this is a huge issue that we need to talk about. But it goes to that commodization of human life.
Yeah.
Of, do you believe that life is intrinsically valuable? Or do you believe that you, as an individual, have the ability to create life or to stop life? And that's what this all comes down to. Whose image were you made in?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And, you know, Kristen, I was reading your bio before the show and noticed that you are a speaker on the subject of feminism, right? So I want to ask you this.
I have to giggle every time.
Huh? What's that?
I have to giggle anytime someone calls me a feminist speaker.
Oh, well, how does this whole issue play into feminism and your views on, and a person's view on the role of women and that sort of thing?
Well, it's interesting, you know, going back to, so all these media interviews are happening, and all you see, if you watch CNN, MSNBC right now with the leaked Dobbs decision, potential reversal of Roe, you would think we were going to go back to 1930s America, where women are going to not have equal opportunities to education and the workforce, you know, not have the ability to own property or vote. I mean, that's kind of the mantra that they're using. And that's what the feminist movement has really been promoting, is this idea that your equality as a free human being, a full member functioning in our society, is directly related to your ability to pay somebody else to end a life that's inconvenient to you. That's essentially what they've been doing. But what we say in the pro-life movement, we actually have a very progressive view. This is 2022. This is not 1972. This is not 1962. We don't want to go back. And in fact, I would think the moment we're in right now should be a moment where the feminist movement should be championing this, of saying we have created all these protections in our society, so a woman shouldn't have to choose. She shouldn't have to choose between the life of her child and her education or her career. And guess what? She doesn't have to do that anymore. Even if she's a single mother, which we know is going to be incredibly difficult for her, she shouldn't and doesn't have to choose, because we have the protections and laws in place. But instead, the feminist movement isn't saying that at all. They're using all of these antiquated talking points that they literally used in the 1960s.
Like back alley abortions and...
It's all scare tactics.
Things like that.
Yeah, and they've been using these scare tactics of women are going to die in the streets if they don't have access to a legal abortion. One, I was in Texas for 6 weeks this spring. I was in a lot of alleys trying to find parking for my huge truck. Trust me, it was not a good experience. And I never saw a dead woman. I was in the airport every week. I saw women conducting business. They had business suits on and had a cell phone, and they weren't walking behind a man. Like, it was, I would go to the college campuses in Massachusetts. I was like, greeting from Texas. I came from Texas, and guess what? I was still a full functioning member of society, even though I don't have the quote unquote right to end the life of my child when their heartbeat is present. And so I think we have to dispel some of these myths. Right. I also think we need to be talking about, like just yesterday, Vice News, which is a very pro-abortion leaning news outlet. Every once in a while, they'll be a little fair. They're publishing stories teaching women how to do it yourself abortions. Coming up with these like herbal tea. This is the people that were like all about science and like made fun of the president for his, was it ivermectin use during COVID, and said you have to follow Dr. Fauci and the science. But yet these are the people now giving women homemade tea recipes so they can abort their child. I mean, they're the ones actually now promoting unsafe abortions that's going to kill women. Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So, Supreme Court draft opinion was leaked 3 or 4 weeks ago. I don't recall exactly how long. Authored by Justice Alito, and reversing Roe versus Wade. 100% reversal, which means that the issue of whether abortion is a constitutional right, that it's clearly not, under that opinion, under the U.S. Constitution, but the states would be free to regulate abortion going forward. What's the status at this point? It caused a huge uproar on the left, and the opinion was leaked, which was unprecedented, and will forever harm our republic. Well, yeah. If the Supreme Court were to bow to that pressure, I think you'd be right. If they hold their ground, though, perhaps they will reestablish that boundary that we're not going to tolerate this kind of intimidation. What do you think is going to happen? I think it's very likely that they will move to fully reverse Roe because of what you just said, Richard. That going back on their decision would totally undermine any credibility the Supreme Court would ever have, because all you have to say is whoever goes out and protests their houses the most and makes the most death threats wins. I mean, that's essentially what they would be saying.
Right.
And I think it's actually very telling of how they already view at the Supreme Court the abortion advocates. Within 10 minutes of that decision being leaked, there were already barricades out in front of the Supreme Court. Now there's a non-scalable fence. I can guarantee you if it was the other way, there would be no need.
No.
If they were mad about pro-lifers, worried about angry pro-lifers, they wouldn't be putting up non-scalable fences.
No, pro-lifers, the court wouldn't be afraid of the court being burned down and people being killed by pro-lifers.
No, but I mean, that's what they've just actually issued the Summer of Rage. We were out. They had this Bands Off Our Bodies march the other weekend. We were out there. We had to spend tens of thousands of dollars hiring security. We couldn't even go to all the cities we wanted to counter because we couldn't find security guards willing to protect our students. Wow. But this is a violent movement. I mean, they literally declared we will have a Summer of Rage. We have declared the summer of service, the summer of standing with her. Okay. And I think that's incredibly important. But I think the dichotomy couldn't be any more clear, that they are the summer of rage. There's been bomb threats. There's been bombs that have been thrown into pro-life offices, pregnancy centers, the vandalizations. This is who they are. I mean, and we shouldn't, I know we are surprised by their behavior, but really we shouldn't be, because these are folks that advocate for violence behind the closed doors of Planned Parenthood. That's what they do. Yeah. So why wouldn't they go out in the street and commit that violence too? Yeah.
Right. Abortion is an act of violence.
Absolutely.
Against an innocent person.
Absolutely.
And 99% of the time, it's done for some kind of personal convenience-related reason.
That's right.
And it's usually not to save the life of the mother and so on. So if you think it's okay to commit violence for a reason of personal convenience, then it's an ends justifies the means kind of situation. And why not use violence against those who are standing up for, who are getting in your way, right?
That's right.
So that's an extreme statement. I recognize that, but it seems to be true to me.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true. And I think it's hard for a lot of people at home to think about, I'm not saying every pro-choice person is like this, but there is a large group of people who have no problem now committing violence right out in the open street. And they feel morally justified in their behavior. Because once again, going back to your point you made earlier, they have lost sight that we are all created in His image, that we are all equally valuable. Even though I might disagree with you on this very important issue, it doesn't mean that you're not a valuable human being.
Yeah, right. Well, so here we are, Memorial Day, and the Supreme Court's opinions are usually issued in June or sometime around there. Do we anticipate that the Dobbs opinion is going to be issued here pretty quickly?
We've been out at the court every day since the beginning of April. They started like end of March issuing their decisions for the year. The most controversial decisions usually come down their last week of work, right before they get out of Dodge and go to 4th of July holiday. So it's the last week of June. That's always when I get my suntan every year. I get like a tan from here up and in my arms. Because you have to be out there. Court. Yeah, and you never know. And what's so frustrating is you never know what decision's coming down. You just know this is a decision day, something's coming out, one or two cases. So we believe they're probably still going to release the decision at the end of June. There has been arguments made from security forces in D.C. to let them issue it sooner, to not allow the abortion industry to gather steam because of the violent threats. But we believe it'll likely be the end of June. But we'll be out there. We'll be out there tomorrow. Tomorrow's a decision day.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. So if the court holds its ground and the same justices vote, the same way they did in that draft opinion, Roe versus Wade will be reversed. It will no longer be the law of the land. But will abortion instantly be illegal everywhere in America?
I wish that were the case, but no. And you need to tell people that, because that's what the majority of Americans don't know what Roe versus Wade is. In fact, if you don't like any abortion, if you have any problems with abortion ever, then you don't like Roe versus Wade. You'll see all these polls that come out. Majority of Americans support Roe versus Wade. ask them what Roe versus Wade is.
Yeah.
Because they don't know. And we've done this with our own internal polling at Students for Life, with our Dimitri Institute. Every year, the past, I think, 3 years, we've asked 18 to 34-year-olds, the largest voting bloc, the most liberal voting bloc in America, how they feel about Roe. We ask the question initially, we lose. There'll be 60, 40, whatever. Then we'll say, did you know Roe versus Wade allows abortion all 9 months for any reason, and sometimes with taxpayer funds? Instantly, we win the majority, and like a 10-point shift. I mean, we were in the 60% of the most liberal voting bloc saying, oh, I don't support Roe versus Wade, after learning one sentence. So, yeah, that's not the case. Reversing Roe does not make abortion illegal everywhere. In fact, this is actually very popular. 80% of the young people we polled this year, and these were majority liberal young people, said that they thought they should have a right to vote on abortion policy in their state. So this is something that's as broadly popular, that this is a decision that's going to go from 7 men, unelected men in 1973, to now your states. And you will have a voice, and you'll be able to influence abortion policy in your state. And that's why our battle and our fight in the pro-life movement actually grows greater. This is not the end of the pro-life movement. My kids were so excited when they heard about the draft decision. I mean, there was like cheering in my house. I had to run out. But I had to come back in and say, wait a minute, our work's actually getting harder, because now the attention will shift from this to now a 50-state battle. We have about 26 states, we think, that can move or will move to completely restrict abortion or significantly restrict abortion, protecting children and women. But, you know, the abortion industry will be filing lawsuit after lawsuit against, you know, some of these states have pre-1973 protections against abortion. Other states have passed the laws since. We just helped some of our legislation at Students for Life Action was just signed into law in Oklahoma that bans all abortions as of August 1st, and there's actual criminal penalties. We've done that in Arkansas. So those laws foreseeably then would go into effect, but then it's going to be a fight.
Yeah, yeah. So 26 states. So this gets really complicated.
It does.
Because we have
there's lots of maps.
Yeah, 50 states that would all have their own law on abortion.
That's right.
Everything from Oklahoma that just passed an outright criminal ban on abortion. Was it after conception? Is that the?
Yeah, it's life begins at conception. So.
To Colorado, which allows abortion all the way up to and arguably even during childbirth, and California is on the verge of trying to go even a little further than that.
Genocide.
So you've got 50 states, and you're saying 26 of those are poised to have major restrictions. So what does that mean exactly? Does that mean banning it, or nothing after the first trimester, or where does
some of the states have trigger laws? So these are laws that were already passed that said if Roe was ever reversed, we will immediately make abortion illegal in our state. Some of these states have laws that are pre-1973 on the books that made abortion illegal, that when Roe came down, their law no longer applied. But then those laws would go back into effect. Yeah. And then there's other states like Oklahoma and Arkansas that we've been working on, and we've been passing legislation to ban abortion. In fact, Oklahoma has passed and signed into law like they passed our Life at Conception Act with Students for Life Action, which is criminal penalties from abortionists. They just passed and signed into law another Life at Conception Act that I think has civil penalties, and they passed a Heartbeat Act. I mean, and so like Oklahoma has like it's going to be like whack-a-mole for abortion industry, because you know they're going to try to sue against every pro-life law. They're going to have like a plethora of laws they have to sue against in Oklahoma. So like if one's being enjoined, they're going to be able to have another one take effect. It's actually great. I'm so confused. Like, which one takes effect first? So it's going to be a little messy. And so, and I think we just have to realize as pro-life activists, we have to know what our state laws are. And we need to be talking with our representatives and ensuring they don't get bullied into silence. So like I was reading, it was read to me while I was driving here today, a news article. It was a stinking push poll. It wasn't even, I don't even know how they could get away with calling this a poll, but essentially it was, Democrats are more popular in abortion than Republicans. So it's basically telling all Republican legislators, like, if you want friends, don't do pro-life laws.
Yeah.
And so we as pro-lifers are going to have to go back to our elected officials and say, hey, you've been saying for 20 years that you're with me. Now is the time to prove it. And these folks are going to have to do some hard things. And that's actually what worries me a little bit, is we have a lot of untested folks. It's been pretty easy to say you're a state lawmaker and be pro-life in many states for a lot of years.
Yeah,
and
because
now
Roe
it's not.
Roe actually gave you cover.
Oh yeah, because a lot of people said, well, we really can't pass that because of Roe. This violates Roe versus Wade. And so, we actually at Students for Life Action got involved in a lot of GOP primaries this spring. There's some states I don't think I'm ever welcome back into. But educating voters of saying, look, you have these elected officials who years have said you're pro-life, but we need to tell you how they killed this bill. Like, there was an Alabama, a state committee, he was a chairman of one of our committees, and we were trying to get the chemical abortion ban passed this year. He wouldn't bring up to the floor for a vote. We met with him, we brought students, we did citizen advocacy. The man refused to bring our chemical abortion bill up for a vote. And so we simply educated all of his constituents. Hey, he says he's pro-life, but just want to let you know, he refused to bring our bill up for a vote. He lost his election.
Wow.
So what about the states that are going to ban abortion? How will the chemical abortion be affected?
That's a really great question. I'm glad you brought that up, Kim, because that's something we've been talking about at Students for Life and within the pro-life movement. I'm actually going to be hiring a full-time person just dedicated to fighting chemical abortion. I have a whole legal team now just fighting chemical abortion, because your state could move if you live in Georgia or Mississippi. A lot of people will be like, oh, I'm good. I live in a red state, I'm covered. I'm not living in Colorado, or that doesn't mean anything, because your state could ban abortion. But your daughter, your granddaughter, can still go to her phone and order chemical abortion pills. She can send them to her friend. Some of the services teach you how to set up your own USPS box, so you can send them there. It's really scary, this wild, wild west situation we have created with chemical abortion pills. I mean, these are pills that result in injury, infertility, and death to women. They always result in death to a child, but they are extremely harmful to women. There's the Charlotte Lozier Institute did a study. They just released it this November, 500% increase in emergency room-related abortion visits since this drug. I mean, this is a dangerous drug. 15% of these abortions don't actually work. So she actually can have parts of her child's placenta still inside of her. 5 to 8% of these abortions result in serious consequences for her, where she has to get medical care.
And so, just so everybody knows, you're talking about medication that the federal government has said does not require a doctor's prescription.
A doctor still has to prescribe these drugs. So it's called RU486 chemical abortion. Okay. The abortion industry calls it medication, where it's not medication. Medication is supposed to help you. This is chemical. This is intended to kill. There used to be REMS, so risk evaluation mitigation strategies. There's about 70 or 80 drugs in America that have REMS attached to them because they're very dangerous. And so if your doctor prescribes you one of these drugs, they have to follow the protocol to make sure you don't die. That's when the chemical abortion pills, because of Bill Clinton, when they were actually originally allowed from the FDA in the early 2000s, they attached these REMS. Like, you have to make sure, one, she's actually pregnant. You have to make sure she's not experiencing ectopic pregnancy, where the child is lodged in the fallopian tube because she takes this pill. I mean, that's a life-threatening situation as it is, having ectopic pregnancy. But if you take these pills, you can die. You have to also make sure if she's Rh negative, her child's Rh positive, you're going to have to make sure she gets, even if she has an abortion through chemical abortion pills, you're supposed to ensure she gets Rogan shot to make sure she can carry other pregnancies to term.
Wow.
Because that's what a lot of people don't realize. 15% of the population is Rh negative. And then what happens is, if you're Rh negative and you're pregnant, your body will form antibodies that will attack your child, your pregnancy, and they will attack every future pregnancy. And so you won't have problems delivering, in most cases, your first child, but you may never be able to carry another child to term ever again if you don't get this Rogan shot during your pregnancy. You have to get it during an abortion or during a miscarriage. There's all kinds of things. because of COVID, the abortion industry wasted like a day and immediately went to the FDA as soon as the crisis came out and demanded that they drop all these REMS and said it's too hard to make women go into an abortion clinic because of COVID. We should be able to prescribe these drugs remotely, and we should be able to trust that she knows she's pregnant, or we should be able to trust that she knows how far along in pregnancy she is, which most women don't get that right. OBGYNs say that majority of women actually don't guess their gestational pregnancy, the time limits right. So this is very dangerous. In December, the Biden administration dropped all REMS against these pills. So now you can be in Wyoming, for example, very conservative red state, and you can get on your phone, you can order the pills right to you. You don't even have to prove you're a Wyoming resident, you don't have to prove your age, you don't have to prove anything.
So do you think there's going to be legal battles on the question of whether a state has the power to regulate those prescriptions, even if they're ordering it from some pharmaceutical company in another state?
That's right. That's the question. That's what we've had legal teams working on, is can state attorneys general fight back and say, no, there's going to be criminal or civil penalties if you, a pharmacist in California, ship these drugs to my state. There's a question about mail. There's some already books on the law about things that are not. It's a felony to distribute in the mail. Can you do that? I know people, I have a friend who ordered some ivermectin from Mexico during COVID and wanted to have it all stocked up. He got a letter from the FDA saying, if you do this again, we're going to come after you.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, so I was like, wait a minute. So they were, and how did they monitor this in mail? So there are things already in place in existing statutes, but this is a whole new ball game of how do we fight this? Because now we're talking about the mail. Like I've had postal carriers reach out to me and go, I don't want to be I don't want to be complicit in abortion. Like, how do I tell my boss that I refuse to carry abortion pills? I'm like, I don't know. How do you know you're carrying an abortion pill? And so there's a lot of questions and a lot of things we're going to have to discuss. There's been talk about maybe a civil penalty law, saying, if you, just like in Texas, if you know someone who's had an abortion through chemical abortion, can the parents or the partner sue the person who shipped the drug to the girlfriend or the daughter, similar to the Texas civil penalties law of the heartbeat bill.
Wow. So people, we're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
And people need to be praying, don't they?
Yes.
Absolutely. We are not, I think you have to understand, we are not done. This is a great a moment. It's taken us 50 years to get this moment. We should definitely celebrate this milestone, but this was like phase one of the pro-life movement. And the abortion industry, they're already ahead of us on this. They knew this was coming. This is why they've been developing these pills. They have other pills that we were talking about before the show that they're trying to develop now to even make it faster to abort your baby. They are not going to give up. And so we need to be on our guard, educating ourselves about this, not only understanding what this consequences of Roe being reversed means, but where do the battle lines shift?
Well, how can people get informed and educated? Can they go to your website? Do you have resources that are available?
That's right. I would encourage you to go to thisischemicalabortion.com.org. That's a great resource where you can watch a docuseries about these chemical abortion pills. It'll explain it much better than I could in just a few moments, how you can take action, how you can promote the abortion pill reversal network, for example, how you can actually reverse these pills after the woman's taken the first one before the second one. I would encourage you to go to standingwithyou.org. That's a great resource that we put together at Students for Life, where we really need the church to rise up and be promoters of all that the pro-life movement does, all the pregnancy centers, the maternity home, the transitional homes. We really have to be spokespersons to say, in a post-Roe America, no woman stands alone. And if you go to standingwithyou.org, that's where you can get connected with all the public and private resources, start an instant chat with a group called Heartbeat, and make a phone call. Go to studentsforlife.org. You can find out what we're up to specifically on campuses and across the country.
So once again, those websites are studentsforlife.org.
That's right.
And then the first one was?
This is chemical abortion.
This is chemicalabortion.org. And then
standingwithyou.org.
Standingwithyou.org. Okay, well.
Sorry, I gave you a lot of action items.
No, that's a lot. We're going to add those to the Truth and Liberty resources page as well, but I encourage everybody to do that. Kristen, we've got about 13 minutes left here in the live cast, and I want to give you a chance to talk about, again, what are the arguments that the proponents of abortion make, and how do we respond to that? What are the just sort of a little abortion apologetics here, if you can, for us. So what's the number one thing that people in favor of abortion who say, no, it ought to be legal, it's a woman's body or whatever, what's their argument, and how should we respond?
The number one argument is rape.
Okay.
Which I actually think is a very disingenuous argument to make. Because if I've done this on campuses, a good friend of mine just did it in Congress a few weeks ago. If you ask an abortion supporter, you say, fine, let's take this off the table. Let's say abortion should be legal in cases of rape or incest. Will you stand with me to oppose 98% of all abortions? I've never found anyone who supports abortion who's willing to say that. So I think it's a very disingenuous argument. And I actually think it's very sad because they're using the trauma, they're using the horror of rape to justify the extremism of abortion. And what they're also doing is they're devaluing children who have been conceived in rape.
Yes.
I know multiple people, one very good friend who is here because a mother who was sexually assaulted courageously chose life and then placed for adoption.
Yeah.
Right. A whole legacy, a whole family tree that is here today because 60 years ago, one woman courageously chose life. And when we talk about rape, when we talk about incest, you hear it, it's almost like we talk about these human beings that don't matter, that because the circumstances of your conception, you don't matter. And we don't give like grades on birth certificates. We don't give gold stars or silver stars on birth certificates. We say you're a human being, you matter, this proves that you're a citizen of the United States. But we don't say, oh, gold star, Richard, because the night you were conceived, your parents went out on a date and they were really trying to get pregnant with you. Right. Or Kristen, your parents, it was a kind of a surprise, and no one was really intending for you, so you only get a silver star. We don't do that. Right. We say every human being is equally valuable and deserving of life because they were created in the image of our Creator, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so I think we need to back that conversation up and really start, when we hear that accusation being made, I think ask the person you're talking to. Well, let's just take that off the table for a second. Would you support this law that I'm talking about if it included an exception for rape? They'll never say yes.
What about the argument, that's amazing. What about the idea of, oh, well, this child is going to grow up in poverty or in some kind of difficult circumstances, or I forget what the
suffering.
Yeah, the suffering.
They'll suffer at some point in their life.
Let's just spare them from a hard life by killing them. How?
I have snarky responses and I have compassionate responses. So yes, I think the first thing you have to realize and convey is that everyone will suffer in their life. And our goal as fellow human beings should be to eliminate suffering. But it is an extremist step to say because someone may suffer, which you never know fully, that they should be brutally murdered. That they should be dismembered, they should be administered poison to cause cardiac arrest, that they should have a vacuum that's 12 times more powerful than a normal household vacuum, suck them apart. That's an extremist step to say, you may suffer, therefore it is better that I do this to you. The question I think we need to ask is there anything else that we can do, or a policy or prescription that we can prescribe that is less extreme than brutally ending your life?
Right. And do we need to get better informed about what resources and options are available to women who feel like they're not they don't want to raise this child, or they can't raise this child because of their condition or circumstances?
Absolutely. And actually, Andrew Womack Ministries is actually co-sponsoring a Standing With Her Sunday on August 28th. You should go standingwithhersunday.org and sign up. But the whole reason we put together that event, this national simulcast event, is to train the church in all the resources that are available in the pro-life movement, whether it's pregnancy centers, maternity homes, transitional homes, adoption agencies, domestic, abuse survivor agencies. There's all of these, post-abortive healing resources. There's all of these resources that we have in place. But sadly, we know from our work, we've been knocking on doors the past year, almost a year and a half now, with our abortion-free communities project. And so we've chose 20 cities, and we door knock in neighborhoods surrounding an abortion facility once a month. We're doing billboards and digital media ads and everything. Denver's one of our cities. But what we've found, we've had 120,000 conversations with neighbors. 73% of those neighbors do not know the pregnancy centers exist. Even though in some of those cities, like in Denver when I was door knocking, you could walk to the pregnancy center from the home I was visiting. And it's right across from the Planned Parenthood. And everybody you talk to knows where the Planned Parenthood is. And everybody knows you can have an abortion there. But they don't know the resources. And this statistic holds true whether it's Christian or non-Christian. And so I think that's what we have to do as the church right now in Post-Roe era, of saying, here are the resources. Here's how we're standing with her. We've been starting, supporting, sustaining all these resources for 50 years. Our job is not going to be over, and we don't see this as the end of our fight. And so that whole line of, pro-lifers don't care about babies after they're born. They don't care about, that's not true. In Texas, when they passed this incredible heartbeat law that's saving thousands of lives, they also, at the same time, passed the Alternatives to Abortion Act, funded it with over $100 million that support women and families up to 3 years old after the birth of their child. No one ever talks about that. And by the way, that wasn't the abortion, industry promoting those laws. When we're on campuses with our Standing With You program, Students for Life, we're changing policies. We're going into the administration demanding that they uphold a pregnant girl's Title IX rights. We're demanding that there's housing for a girl so she doesn't get kicked out of college just because she's pregnant. She can live in the dorms until she gives birth. That's not the pro-choice movement doing that. That's the pro-life movement. So we actually have to have I kind of call it the virtual tool belt of you as a Christian need to know. Standingwithyou.org. Abortion support, supportafterabortion.org, abortionproreversal.com. You need to know all of these resources and have in your tool belt so you can be advocating and talking about them.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So I think most people out there definitely feel that, okay, if Roe versus Wade is reversed, we've won, right? But the truth is that all it's doing is opening the door back up for us to fight the fight for the unborn at a more local level. And so it's an opportunity. It should be celebrated. But really, we all have a lot more work to do. And so what can the average person out there kind of do? There's been a lot thrown at them today. Go on those websites that we listed. Connect with your organization. Let's talk about churches for a second. What do you think the churches can do, or can people do stuff inside of their church that would be a blessing? Well,
the first thing is sign up for standingwithhersunday.org, because this is the simulcast, so it'll be for your church, your small group, and it's going to be about a 90-minute program. Andrew will be speaking. Haven't figured out if I'm going to get him in person or video yet, but we're trying to get everybody in person. But the idea is this will be that starting point for your church. This is going to tell you all the resources and how your church can step up in your community to serve. And so we're going to have different representatives from different parts of the pro-life movement kind of all together. So I think that really is the first step, because I think that's where you're going to get all the information. But I do think as a Christian, you need to, one, understand that this is now the time not to be silent. This is the time to be vocal. This is the time to be courageous. Don't shy away from these conversations in the workplace or at the dinner table. You know, talk openly about why you support the reversal of Roe versus Wade, why you're excited for this moment, the opportunity that we have to save millions of lives, millions of lives, and transform our entire nation. I think that's really the first step, is knowing, okay, I can't sit back anymore. Like, I have to be actively engaged. It is no longer going to be acceptable for you to say, oh yeah, I'm pro-life. I voted pro-life.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, what did you do? Do you have a bumper sticker in your car with standingwithyou.org? Are you advertising this? Are you sharing things on your social media about all the resources that are available? And I'm not saying that every person has to be willing, like you and I, to go to a state capitol and advocate for a passage of legislation. But we should all, at the very minimum, be willing to talk about the alternatives that exist, the social safety net that we have created in the pro-life movement for 50 years to support women.
So folks that are watching, what's the website again for the Standing With Her? Standing With Her Sunday.
.org.
Okay. You can go there, and then you need to forward that website, that link, to your pastor.
Yes.
Okay. And encourage him or ask for an opportunity to visit with him about how to get your church on board to participate in Standing With Her Sunday, and that's on August what now?
August 28th.
August 28th.
And if you sign up and you commit to getting this, you know, whether you're playing it at your church on Sunday night or if you're playing your small group, we'll send you a free action kit. You get bumper stickers, you get things to pass out. So it's really simple. It takes like 2 seconds to sign up, but really speaking to the pastor would be significant, because I have to tell you, for the last year and a half, we've been working and promoting these alternative resources, and pastors can be difficult. They're very busy people, apparently, Richard. And so you got to really just kind of keep knocking at their door and say, this matters. This is important. Now is the time for the church to stand up. The abortion industry is not going to waste this moment. And I've just talked about that with chemical abortion. They're not wasting a moment. We cannot waste a moment.
Right. Well, that's amazing. Well, Kristen, man, so much amazing information. I want to get this live cast and listen to it again. It's so amazing. I hope all of you were taking notes, but if you weren't, you can check this video out once it's in our archive page. And we are at a historic moment in America, really an historic moment in the world, where we're going to see, God willing, Roe versus Wade reversed and the door open for us to really begin to reduce the number of abortions in a way that it was unthinkable 15 years ago. And so, Kristen, thanks for joining us again today.
Thanks for having me.
Her organization, again, is Students for Life, and you can check them out at studentsforlife.org and support them, would you? Pray for them and all the pro-life organizations that are out there in America. Thank you, Kim, for joining us today and helping host this. It's been a great time. So God bless all of you. Thank you for watching, and also thank you to CTN for carrying our show into your homes, and we really appreciate them. They are amazing partners. And catch us again next week on Monday evening at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time for the Truth and Liberty live cast. Next week, our guest is going to be Andrea Williams from Christian Concern in the United Kingdom. God bless you, and we'll see you then.
God will come through. Miracles are waiting for you, but not if you stay in the boat. You're going to have to step out of the boat, and you're going to have to take a step of faith and start walking on the water.
We all know that God has gifted us, and we know that we are responsible for what we do with that gifting. We must rebuild the United States of America, this constitutional republic under God. The time is now. We cannot wait any longer.
God gave us a nation that was founded on biblical principles. This nation could not exist without the gospel.
Join us next time for the Truth and Liberty broadcast. Find tonight's episode and related articles and links at truthandliberty.net. Truth and Liberty is viewer supported. If you'd like to help us continue our live casts, you can make a donation at truthandliberty.net.